Hello, this is Mari. Today's video I will explain how I use textures in my artwork. I use textures to add depth and tact to my digital artwork, taking away some of the smoothness that digital art provides and to attempt to add more interest and dimension. Often different mediums can change the look of your traditional artwork, just like different textures can give your digital illustrations different looks. Rough pencil textures can add brush strokes emphasizing movement and creating a dramatic look. Or soften your illustration using a pastel texture. I love using this to make this style resemble cute paper cutouts. Or to elevate an already beautiful illustration, a watercolor texture is a subtle change but can make an image look timeless. Here I am using Paint Tool SI again, but you can achieve this effect with most art programs. For today's demonstration I will be editing this illustration I created. You can see the process behind this illustration on my Patreon. I have a collection of textures I have made personally or found online. You can find many copyright-free textures on sites like DeviantArt and Tumblr, or make your own using a variety of media, pastels, crayons, pencil, paint, and more. You can scan your texture or take a well-lit photo to use it on your computer. Here is a watercolor texture. They are very nice to add noise to your images. It's a lovely green, but for now I will change the saturation of this texture so it doesn't alter my illustration's colors. To emphasize the watercolor paper surface here I will up the contrast and push the brightness down. Now I will copy and paste the texture over my image. This texture is on its own layer above the artwork. I will set the blending mode to overlay. You can immediately see the effect. My flat illustration now looks just like a watercolor painting. The grain of the paper is visible and adds that certain vibrancy or je ne sais quoi that traditional mediums have. I will resize the texture so that it covers the entire image, allowing the texture to maintain consistency over the entire image. However, it is a little bright and washing out the skirt of the girl. I will adjust the opacity of this layer so it reads better. My illustration went from flat to very warm and bright. Textures add a lot of dimension to artwork. Let's play with some other textures. Again, it is a good idea to have a vault of textures you can utilize, as each medium can give an image a different effect. It can even simplify your creation process, allowing you to create a desired look faster and easier. Here is a very pretty texture made with acrylic paint on canvas. I will edit it directed onto the illustration file. We start by copy and pasting it again on its own layer above the illustration. This one is large enough I don't have to resize it. I have changed the blending layer to overlay. Working this way I can see the effects in real time on my illustration and adjust it to best add the look I want. This acrylic paint is very dramatic and looks good for clouds or waves, but it doesn't fit this image as I like. This next texture is one of my favorites. It's another watercolor texture with heavy saturation and charming ink effects. We will do the same process of pasting it and changing the layer to overlay. This one we have to resize. It looks very warm and dreamy. We didn't desaturate this texture like the ones before. The color of it is overlaying the colors of the illustration below. We can use textures in this way too as a filter. Let's adjust the color though to best suit this image. Overlaying this can change the mood of your illustrations and add depth to them. A lot of this process is trial and error, as each illustration is different and will react differently to the textures. Sometimes it is beneficial to make a custom texture for a piece to bring out the desired effect and emphasis you want on your image. I like how this texture looks, but let's keep exploring. We can try to combine two textures. This pastel paper texture is another one of my favorites. Again, we will adjust the saturation, contrast, and brightness to really bring out the grain of the paper. And again we will copy, paste, and resize this texture to cover our illustration. After changing the blending mode of the layer to overlay, we can see the texture makes a very dramatic change. Let's change the opacity of this layer to soften the look. With our other texture combined we can get a totally different look to this image. I will adjust the opacity and hue slightly to my preference, again using trial and error to find the look I enjoy best with these textures. We want to emphasize the illustration rather than obscure it. I think this look is bringing out the best in the colors and environment. Another thing you can try is your art program's built-in textures and filters. In Paint Tool SI we can try a few textures up here. For this method I will select the artwork layer first, then in the texture drop box up here we can see a few built-in textures. The first texture is canvas. Using this method, you can adjust both the grain of the texture and the size of it using these sliders. Each giving the image quite a different effect. This is the canvas texture. Next is the paper texture, is a very rough grain. This texture would be very good working with large areas of flat color. The watercolor A and B textures are my favorite for giving a subtle nuance to a piece. Thank you for watching, and I hope this has been helpful. Please comment below if you have any questions.